Welcome to Ill-Equipped History. We're two best friends. Act silly and tell me about history. Sorry, I started my intro and Emily was dancing along to what I was saying.
It wasn't even music, but I was just happy.
We're still together, by the way. If you can't tell by our crackhead energy. Yeah. And I know it's going to be way after, but today's Emily's birthday. Yay! Happy birthday.
I ate some cake before we recorded. I don't know if you could tell. I'm like on Zoomies.
Sugar high.
Sugar, because my boss sent me cake to my door.
That's awesome.
I know. Thank you.
So how's your birthday so far, Emma?
It's good. It's great. Dropped the kids off and then, got a wax.
Did your thing.
Did my thing. And now we're here and we're going to go get pedicures and then we're going to go out tonight. So
and do trivia. Yay. So exciting.
Basically, all of our book club is coming tonight. I was just like, hey, do you want to come? Hey, do you want to come? Does anybody want to come? And book club was last night, so I made an announcement, and I think everybody's coming.
That's awesome. Yay. Nice group.
Yeah, we're going to win.
Yes.
If we don't win with all the people we have, we are the dumbest group of people.
All right.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We got a good one today.
Yes, so I'm real excited to talk about it. Let's get into our sketch.
Yay!
The year is 1938 in New York City. A young upcoming artist is preparing for her first solo exhibition at the Julian Levy Gallery. Her friend, Andre Breton, is hosting the exhibit and goes to calm her down.
Well, are you ready?
I am, but I'm so nervous. What if no one likes my art?
That's nonsense. You are so talented. You are one of the finest surrealist painters of your generation.
I'm not a surrealist. This is my reality.
Sure. What I'm saying is you have an eye like no one else. Your perspective and talent are unmatched. Your husband agrees. The wife of Diego Rivera makes a name for herself tonight.
You have a point there. Well, I guess there's no time to start like the present.
The artist presents her exhibition and almost overnight becomes known in the art world for her raw, unapologetic self-portraits. Over time, she does make a name for herself apart from her world-renowned artist husband and arguably surpasses him in history. Today we talk about the story of Frida Kahlo, one of the most beloved artists in history.
I am so excited about this. I love her, and I don't know a whole lot about her, but I love her as a vibe, like
yes.
as a person.
I do too, and it was really interesting to learn more about her life because I think people know like bits and pieces of it, mostly around her relationship with Diego Rivera because it was kind of one of the most documented parts of her life, but there's a lot of other stuff that I wasn't really aware of that really influenced her perspective when painting, especially her self-portraits, her attitude about death and pain and not being apologetic in how she represented anything. So let's talk about Frida. Let's talk about her life story. So she was born July 6, 1907 in Coyoacan, Mexico City, Mexico. Her full name is Magdalena Carmen Frida Kahlo Calderon.
What a name.
I know. Her father was actually a German immigrant. His name was Wilhelm Kahlo, and when he moved to Mexico, he changed his first name to Guillermo, which both mean William. And then her mother's name was Matilda Calderon, and she was half Indigenous, half Spanish ancestry. And she had two older sisters and one younger sister. Her older sisters were Matilda, who's the oldest, and actually later on in life became Frida's caretaker, and Adriana, and then Christina's her youngest sister.
Okay.
They all grew up in what's called the Casa Azul, or the Blue House, and it's very blue. She was pretty close to her family, but very, very close to her father growing up. When she was growing up, when she was 3 years old, the Mexican Revolution broke out and was ongoing.
Okay.
And She grew up with gunfire in the streets and revolutionaries coming over to her house, and her mother would cook meals for the revolutionaries. One thing I saw that was interesting is that when she became older, she actually said she was born the same year as the revolution, I think to associate herself. Okay. Because she was very, like, how do I want to say this? She wasn't anti-government, but she was a member of the Communist Party, like the Communist Party of Mexico growing up. So I think, like, the idea of, like, rebelling against, like, the government appealed to her. So she was like, I am a symbol of the revolution.
Well, also, I mean, if you think about it, putting together a revolution does take a couple years. So, I mean, maybe she knew that there was stuff in the underground before it even came to light. So maybe she was born at the same time people were starting to organize. That doesn't necessarily, you know, obviously it comes to light when she's 3, but yeah. So, I mean, it could be both.
There could have been stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
When she was 6-year-old, she contracted polio, and she was actually bedridden for almost a year.
Jeez.
And because of the polio, her right leg, like, didn't develop. Okay. And it became it was smaller, like, thinner, withered, I guess.
Okay.
And she actually had a limp for a long time, like, as she recovered, and she wore long skirts to cover her leg. And I saw in one source, because we'll talk about it, but she had lifelong health issues, and it's suspected she may have also had undiagnosed spina bifida. Oh. Not sure.
Okay.
But her father encouraged her, you know, to heal, to get better, to recover from polio, like, play sports, be active, which is not really common for children, like girls in Mexico at the time.
Right.
So she played soccer, she swam, she wrestled and boxed.
Man, I bet that helped a lot with her
strength.
Physical rehab. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And her father was very, very much encouraged her to do that. And that's really all I know about, like, her really early life. I don't know anything about her education up to when she started high school.
Okay.
When she was about 15, she enrolled in the National Preparatory School in Mexico City in 1922. And when she enrolled, she was studying medicine. She was one of 35 female students in a population of over 2,000.
Whoa. Holy crap.
So, and she was very outspoken, very much like,
of course.
I'm here. Of course, Frida Kahlo.
Of course.
While she was in school, she helped support her family by working. In addition to going to school full time, she was like, it made it sound like she was like at the security gate for a lumber yard. Like, she tracked who came in and out. Mm-hmm. And she also worked at her father's photography studio. He was a photographer.
Okay.
And she would, like, paint his, like, photographs to, like, make colored pictures.
Right.
In the, early 1900s.
Cool.
While there, she met a man named Diego Rivera. Mm-hmm. He was a muralist, and he was actually working on a mural on her school campus. They didn't start a relationship, they just met. He was 20 years older than her.
Oh.
But she saw him, I think they chatted for a little bit, and then apparently, like, they walked away, and she told one of her friends, I'm going to marry him someday.
Okay.
While at school, she joined a like-minded political group on campus called the Cachuchas, and they were affiliated with the Young Communist League and the Mexican Communist Party. And while in this group, she fell in love with its, like, leader. His name was Alejandro Gomez Arias.
Okay.
In 1925, so I think she's, like, 17 or 18 at this point. Okay. She and Alejandro were in a horrific bus accident. This is a quote from FridaKahlo.org. A steel handrail impaled her through the hip. Her spine and pelvis were fractured, and this accident left her in a great deal of pain, both physically and physiologically. Quote, she suffered multiple fractures of her spine, collarbone, and ribs, a shattered pelvis, broken foot, and a dislocated shoulder.
Oh my God.
Horrific.
How did she even survive that?
She was hospitalized for weeks.
What year is this?
1925.
Medicine was not that great.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
And when she returned home, she had to wear a full body cast for 3 months while she recovered. So she was in bed for 3 months, couldn't move. So her parents, like, they make, like, a contraption for her, and she starts painting.
Okay, what good parents?
I know.
Like last week's episode, just like, oh, you're sick in bed? Here, paint.
Yeah.
Do something. Oh, I love it.
They built like a special easel that could like fit over her body and it was like tilted so she and like bought her all of her materials and paints and brushes. And this is a quote from her. She said, quote, "I paint myself because I am often alone and I am the subject I know best." Because she's most famous for her self-portrait.
Right.
So her very first self-portrait, it was actually, this isn't really funny. It was completed in 1926 called Self-Portrait in a Velvet Dress. And this was to, I guess her and Alejandro had a falling out.
Okay.
He called her too liberal.
What? Weren't you part of, you know,
the Communist Party?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
I guess she was too extreme for him. And so she painted this self-portrait to try to like win him back and was like writing him letters. Didn't work. But that was her very first self-portrait.
It's really good.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh my God.
I know. I don't have all of her paintings because she has like
right,
almost 140, but I have some of like her most famous ones.
I like the waves in the background.
Yeah. So in the 20th century, I got this quote from hyperallergic.com, and I just put this in because it kind of gives a framework for the artistic culture of Mexico at this time.
Okay.
So during the 20th century, Mexico was undergoing a cultural ideological renaissance, not really of sorts. It was like a shift.
Okay.
It's called Indigenismo, and it placed an emphasis on like colorism and indigenous features. So I have kind of a long quote that explains this, and this article is a little critical of Frida because she was a quarter indigenous, but she kind of, the criticism is that she kind of play acted her indigenous culture, which I'm not one to say like who can use their indigenous culture or appreciate their indigenous culture for anything. But this article just kind of talks about the framework for which this was going on at the time. So it's kind of long. Quote, "This term refers to a cultural ideology formulated by the Mexican white and mestizo, or Spanish and indigenous mixed race, elite that became official policy starting in the 1920s. It became so by both creating a new prototypical Mexican Indian and homogenizing the many distinct indigenous cultures. In practice, the term meant glorifying a redefined past fabricated by co-opting and simplifying indigenous cultures to render them palatable to a mestizo hegemony, while assimilating indigenous people into a modern nation state. Unsurprisingly, indigenous people were denied an active role in the conception and execution of this new ideology. It is through these historical conditions and cultural frameworks that Kahlo's legacy needs reckoning." And this is an article written by, I just wrote her last name, Carcia, Cheran, hyperallergic.com. I have the link in the show notes. But basically, it's like the way that she dressed, the way that she used her art, it was indigenous. And I think this article is like kind of co-opting of indigenous culture for people who are not fully indigenous.
Okay.
So in 1928, a couple years later, she and Diego Rivera reconnected. It's not really sure how. They may have been reintroduced by a mutual friend of theirs, but they soon began a romantic relationship and got married in 1929. She was 22 and he was 43.
Okie doke.
Yeah. And in 1929, she became pregnant, but due to her accident, doctors told her the pregnancy would be very, very high risk. So she terminated her pregnancy.
Oh.
And while she was with Diego, the first few years, they moved around a lot because, again, he was like a world-renowned muralist. So he was traveling to San Francisco, New York City, Detroit for like his art projects. And she just kind of tagged on with him. I think she was painting, but she wasn't a notable artist yet.
Right.
And in 1932, she started incorporating more of a surreal style. And she suffered her first miscarriage in 1932 at Henry Ford Hospital. And I don't know if I included this painting, but there's a painting called Henry Ford Hospital, and it's depicting her going through her miscarriage. And that same year, her mother died after a gallbladder surgery. Which, when you're talking about Andy Warhol's mother had a gallbladder surgery that went wrong, I was like, so did Frida Kahlo's mother.
No, it was Andy Warhol himself
that had gallbladder surgery.
You're right, yeah. Which is crazy. Who'd have think such a routine thing?
Yeah.
But I mean, complications are complications.
Yeah. And this was in 1932, and surgeries were a lot more lethal back then. So about her and Diego's relationship, they both, but I think Diego more so, had multiple affairs.
Oh.
And I don't think Frida was very happy about it. And Diego wasn't happy about Frida's affairs. I think so. Frida did have affairs with men and women, and I'll talk about her affairs in just a second. So she was bisexual. Diego had no problem with her like sleeping with women or having relationships with women. He did not like it when she had relationships with men. But they also like, apparently sometimes Frida would also like become close to some of Diego's affair partners, and then they would begin having affairs with her.
Oh, jeez.
So it's kind of messy.
Okay.
But she did find out that Diego was having an affair with her younger sister, Christina.
No.
Yeah, and she was devastated.
Yeah, that's her sister.
Yeah. So after this reveal, she had 2 paintings that I saw that were noted that like depicted her heartbreak. One is called Self-Portrait with Cropped Hair, and Memory of the Heart. She was so devastated, she chopped all of her hair off to like symbolize her devastation at this betrayal. And she suffered another miscarriage in 1934. And that same year, her right foot has been plaguing her whole life. She had to have several toes amputated because of difficulties with her foot. It's just a lot of tragedy in her life, unfortunately. And her and Diego, like, they would separate and get back together, separate, get back together. Seems like they loved each other a lot, and there was a lot of passion, but they also, like, had a lot of animosity towards each other. And I watched a PBS documentary about Frida Kahlo that's linked in the show notes. And one of the historians said that she loved Diego, but she hated him, but loved him so much. Like, she loved him more than anything on earth.
Yeah.
She compared it to, like, him being her skin. So, artists.
Yes.
Very passionate.
Yes.
So, a list of her affairs. Just so we have some information about some of the people that may be recurring or some people that were very important in her life. In 1931, she began about a 10-year affair with Nicholas Marais. He was a Hungarian photographer visiting Mexico City. He actually took many, many photos of Frida. I think they actually collaborated and came out with like a photo book of her.
Well, this one is amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. In the early 1930s, she also became close to Georgia O'Keeffe.
Okay.
Who is another, like, she's one of my favorite artists. It was apparently very passionate affair. Okay. They wrote many love letters back and forth.
Okay.
In 1935, she met Isamu Noguchi. He was a Japanese-American sculptor.
He's cute.
Yeah.
He's really cute. Okay, get it, Frida.
Yeah. Apparently, he gave her a collection, like a butterfly collection that is still in what's now a museum about her. In her old bedroom. And there's a story about
like
how...
dead butterflies in the...
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's one story that, like, Diego confronted them while they were in bed together. And, like, Isamu had to escape out a window. And Diego's, like, chasing him with a gun or something.
Oh, my God. The drama.
So much drama. This one's pretty important to Frida's and Diego's story. I'm not going to go into too much detail because he just kind of like pops in and out. But in the 1930s, there was a man named Leon Trotsky. He was a major rival to, I put Joseph Stalin. I think I meant to put Vladimir Lenin. But he was a major like communist figure, and he has fled Russia.
Okay.
Mexico's the only country that will take him. Like, he can't go anywhere else in the world, basically. Because he is, like, prime target number 1.
Right. Big like target on his back, kind of.
Majorly.
Okay.
So, him and his wife, Natalia, are seeking asylum in Mexico. And Diego and Frida, who are big communists, they're like, please come to us. We will keep you safe. And I think Leon and Natalia live in Casa Azul for a while.
Wow.
With them. But Frida and Leon began having an affair with each other. She very much likes like the artistic intellectual types, for sure. Some other lovers that she had, she had an affair with actress Dolores Del Rio. She was actually one of Diego's lovers and became one of Frida's lovers after they became close. Tina Madotti, who is an Italian-American photographer who... It said, I read a source that she was the person that reintroduced Diego and Frida together. Apparently her doctor, Leo Iloser.
Okay.
And he was her doctor almost, not her entire life, but like almost her entire adult life.
Wow.
Which I was like, I don't know how ethical it is for your doctor to be your lover, but different time.
You know what? Okay.
Chavela Vargas, who is a Mexican singer. Their picture together is really cute. They're like smiling and laughing.
Oh, look at them. They're like laying down.
I know. It's so cute.
Yeah, cute.
And I saw one like purported Josephine Baker was one of her lovers, but there's no like concrete evidence. But
she's really pretty.
She's gorgeous. There is a couple photographs of them like meeting and together. But again,
that doesn't necessarily mean.
Right. It's just speculated. So that's just kind of a list. I might refer to a couple of these people as we go. So in 1933, they had been living in New York. Diego had been commissioned to paint a mural for Nelson Rockefeller. But he painted Vladimir Lenin in it, and this pissed off Rockefeller.
Oh my God. Know your audience. Come on, Diego.
I don't know if the capitalist wants a communist in his mural that he's commissioning for you. And they actually like painted over Lenin in the mural. And so Diego and Frida had to go back to Mexico and they moved to San Angel. And another part of their relationship is that they usually lived separately.
Okay.
And when they moved back, they had two houses that were like connected by a bridge.
Oh.
But they usually had separate dwellings or separate rooms or just like completely separate houses. Like I think later on in their relationship, Frida lived at Casa Azul and then Diego lived in like one of his studios, like further in the city center. The same year, 1934, I think I mentioned that she had a miscarriage. She had 3 surgeries on her appendix. And I think she had ulcers on her foot, and that's why she had to get some toes amputated. Like, her health is just constant struggle.
Yeah.
And about her foot, her right foot, Frida said, quote, "Nothing else can be done, and one day I'm going to decide to have them cut it off so it won't bother me so much."
I feel that.
Yeah.
I get that. Mine's not near that bad, and some days I'm like, man, I wish this thing was gone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get it.
In 1936, she did start taking herself more seriously as an artist.
Good.
I think she was like getting good feedback from her paintings and people were like, hey, like I think this should be something you encouraging her. And Diego really encouraged her too. Like he wanted her to be an artist in and of herself. And by 1937, she appeared on the cover of Vogue magazine.
Okay.
Yeah. In 1938, she befriended a man named André Breton, who was a notable surrealist painter. He is the André that was introduced in the skit. He loved her art. I don't think they ever had I didn't see anything about them having a romantic relationship together, but they were very close friends for a long time.
Good.
And he was very encouraging towards her. The interest, so surrealism was really coming into its own as a genre of art at this time in the 1930s. And he was like, "You're an amazing surrealist painter." And she said, "I'm not a surrealist painter. This is my reality."
Yeah. She's just painting her feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she denied that she was a surrealist, but in my opinion, as someone who knows nothing about her art can be very surreal.
It looks pretty surreal.
Yeah. Man, there's just so much. I'm sorry, I'm just saying like a lot of dates. Like I had to really like piece together a lot of stuff. The same year, in 1938, she and Diego actually divorced.
Oh.
Because it just things were getting really bad. And there is this whole, in the documentary I watched, I didn't really write it down because I only saw it in the PBS documentary, but apparently, you remember Leon Trotsky? Mm-hmm. Apparently, like, there was an assassination attempt against him. And right before this assassination attempt, Leon and Diego had a falling out.
Okay.
And Diego's like, get out of my house.
Okay.
I think Leon like insulted he's like, you're not a politician, you're not a true communist, whatever. And Diego's like, get out of here. So Leon and Natalia like relocated to another house in the area.
Right.
And then there's an assassination attempt, and Diego is like a suspect to the, I don't think he was, but.
Right. But I mean, if you say, you had a falling out, and then very soon after there's an assassination attempt, they're going to be like,
yeah.
Who was that?
Right. And so apparently he fled Mexico. And this is just like theorized in the documentary. I only saw it in this source, but he may have like initiated the divorce from Frida to like protect her from like any kind of investigation.
Oh, okay.
Not sure. But they're also having a lot of troubles with their relationship too.
It seems like it was a very love-hate relationship going on.
Very hot and cold. Fiery, passionate, a lot of emotions behind it, I think.
Probably, it seems kind of toxic if they're constantly cheating on each other.
Right.
But, like, you are the air I breathe, you are my skin kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
You need some middle ground there.
Right. Yeah. So, amidst all of this, with everything going on, she paints one of her most famous painting, The Two Fridas. And I think I have that for you, Emily.
Yes.
And this one has been, like, it's one of her most famous ones. Like, I'm not going to get into the analysis of it, but it's like, there's herself before she met Diego and after she met Diego is kind of what people believe this painting is depicting. And also, I forgot to mention this, but remember how I said that she started as a medical student?
Right.
Like when she started school. So she did a lot of like medical art and like she studied anatomy and stuff. And so she has a lot of anatomy and like organ depictions in her art because she studied that. A lot of her art has like veins and hearts and livers and lungs and stuff like that.
Yeah. These are wild.
Yeah.
Literally, like, her heart is on, like, in both of the Fridas.
Mm-hmm.
Her heart's on the outside, and they're, like, connected by a vein.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, she's got scissors on one hand, so it's like she's cutting, like, one of the veins off. And like, she's breaking the cycle of the heart thing. That's crazy.
And I think that it's kind of, I think it's a clamp. I think it's like
probably. Probably.
But like she's bleeding all over her dress, and then in the one on the right, with the blue and the green, she's actually holding a tiny picture of Diego when he was a child. It's really hard to see. I don't think you'd be able to see it like in this version. You can tell
even her stance is different. Like the way she painted hers, the way she's sitting is almost like she's like slouched over, like back,
like defeated almost. Like she looks like more slouched.
Yeah, she
like
looks
you said, like
exhausted, and
you can see like her torso is more wrinkled, and
her clothes are completely different. In the first one, she's very like proper.
Yeah,
and then the second one, she's just like disheveled almost.
Yeah.
Man, I could sit here and stare at this thing all day.
I know.
Wow.
So positives. Andre Breton again was super dedicated to her work, and he arranged her to have her first solo exhibition in New York City at the Julian Levy Gallery. Mm-hmm. And this was the first time that she had had the spotlight on herself. Up to this point, she had been known as Diego Rivera's wife.
Hate that.
But now, now that she has a stage of her own, now she's becoming known as Frida Kahlo.
And this is what year?
1938.
38. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So now, she has getting more of a name, and her art is so unconventional for other female artists at the time. Mm-hmm. She's really breaking barriers. She's not... she's depicting miscarriages in her art. She's depicting suicides in her art. She's not shying away from death in her art.
Those are topics you did not talk about back then. They're
especially
even hard
as
to
a
talk
woman
about now.
Yeah.
Let alone in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think people were really fascinated by it. People didn't shun her for her art.
Right.
You would maybe expect. They were like, wow, this is... And maybe it was part of the surrealism, but people like sought it out. Like they're like, please like give me one of your paintings or let me buy some of your paintings. So that did really well. So Andre Breton was like, hey, let's do another one in Paris. Like, let's have another exhibition for you, for your paintings. And Diego, they were still talking. They're still communicating. They may have gotten remarried at this point. I'm not sure. They did get remarried. Oh, spoiler alert. Like the next year. Which I'll go.
Couldn't live without each
other.
Well,
and I'll go into more detail about that when I talk about it. I just don't remember if this was before or after they remarried. But Diego's like, go. Like, he always encouraged her art. He was he never felt jealous about that. So a lot happened when she was in France. One, it's 1939. We always talk about World War II, apparently.
Well, a lot happens.
Yes. And so she is in France on the precipice of war, and she's horrified. People are like already like not having food. Like, there's a lot of chaos going on. Like, the war hasn't started yet because this is like April of 1939. But like, she's just like, I don't know, this is weird. And like, you have all these hoity-toity artists, like these surrealists, are just in a cafe drinking coffee and wine and just like laughing and not even acknowledging that there's like distress going on actively.
And the war hadn't even started yet.
Right. But people are preparing for war because they know like shit's going on. And she's like, what is this? Like, you guys are assholes. Yeah. Like, you're just not even acknowledging, like, we're artists. Like, we observe the world around us. You're not even acknowledging what's right in front of your face.
No, they were already way up here.
Yeah.
Above, quote unquote, above everyone
exactly.
else.
And she was already like, okay, I don't really like this group of people. I'm starting to like separate myself.
Good on her.
Yeah. And then, so the show that Andre Breton put on, it was not really about her art or even his art. It was more of like, this is what I found in Mexico. Look at all these cute little, like, souvenirs I got. And it was a very, like, narrow lens of Mexican culture. And apparently Frida was placed next to a bunch of, like, I think the comparison would be, like, a bunch of gas station souvenirs. And she was very upset about where because she was like, I'm, becoming an artist. Yeah. And people are appreciating my work. And she's, like, kind of, like, oh, here's like some gas station souvenirs and this artist who paints little Mexican paintings. So
and the Mexican paintings are like hearts out and things. And like, I'm looking at one, she has a column for a spine, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That doesn't make no.
Yeah. So she kind of was like, maybe Andre Breton isn't a really good friend. And she didn't like this experience at all, but what she did like was his wife.
Hell yes!
His wife's name is Jacqueline Lamba, and they apparently had a very lengthy, loving affair. They wrote lots of letters and were very affectionate to each other. So
she's probably like, I'm sorry, my husband's a dick.
Did I add a picture? There's a few pictures of them online that you can Google. Oh, I have one. They're like, their faces are together.
Look at them.
Yeah.
Hugging.
Yeah. They look like they're about to smooch.
Yeah.
So she's invited to another art exhibition in London that same year, but she's like, I gotta get out of Europe. Like, it's 1939. This is stressful.
I can see what's coming.
Yeah. Kind of backtracking a little bit. When her and Diego divorced, she started painting a lot more to like express her pain. I mean, she was devastated by this divorce. Right. And I already mentioned the two Fridas. She started painting more and started painting more self-portraits to sell to collectors who wanted to buy her art. Mm-hmm. The very first portrait that she sold, Diego bought. And she was like, what are we doing here? Yeah. Like, what's going on? Yeah. She was very confused. She didn't understand. And then her health just got worse and worse and worse. And Diego's like, he comes in and starts taking care of her because her health is just so poor. And again, the timelines are kind of like, I know the years things happen, but I don't know the months things happen. So things might be out of order, but I'll finish this Diego thing. Okay. So in 1940, they're in San Francisco. I think that's where her doctor was. Mm-hmm. And like, everyone in their lives, including her doctor, knew that they loved each other so much. Mm-hmm. And I think her doctor told Diego, like, she is in so much pain without you. Like, this divorce is actively hindering her recovery. Yes. So you're here, you're taking care of her, like, you're still in her life. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so they ended up remarrying in San Francisco in 1940. And I saw this quote in one of my sources from Frida. It said, quote, "There have been 2 great accidents in my life. One was the trolley and the other was Diego. Diego is by far the worst."
Oh, shit. Well.
So, and when they got back together, it was like, we're kind of recommitting to each other, but also we're not going to change at all as people. Oh. Like, they still were actively having their affairs. But I think from what everything sounded like, they renewed their love for each other. So yes, they still had their affairs, yes, whatever, but they were like, we're going to become more passionate towards each other as well. Right. So it seemed almost at this point, it was like an open marriage.
Right, that's basically what I was just thinking. I was like, it just sounds like you have an open relationship.
Right. So, like, they're dedicated to each other, and, like, their love for each other grew. I don't think they separated again after they remarried.
Okay.
But, you know, they're still doing their things. They're artists. They're free spirits, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Also in 1940, Leon Trotsky is assassinated.
Oh, shit.
In Coyoacán. And apparently Frida and her sister Christina are interrogated and spent 2 days in jail.
Oh, no.
But I don't think they had anything to do with this, so they were released. So the following year, 1941, Frida was commissioned by the Mexican government to paint like 5 notable women in Mexican history. But she just was not able to complete this project. Okay. Her father died that year from a heart attack. Her health was just not good at all. Like, she was bedridden a lot. But her popularity continued to just skyrocket. And in 1942, she became a professor of art at the Escuela Nacional de Pintura y Escultura, also called La Esmeralda.
Okay.
And she loves it, but her health gets to a point where she actually has to give art lessons from her home. Like, she's bedridden, like, giving art lessons to her students, like, from her bed.
But she's so dedicated.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
And apparently she had 4 students, and they became known as Los Fridos.
Los Fridos.
And in the documentary I watched, 2 of them were still alive, and they were just so affectionate, and still just like, she was incredible and amazing, and she would, like, being in her presence was like being in front of God, basically, like, so reverent about being taught art by Frida Kahlo herself. Which I think
Could you imagine being taught art by Frida Kahlo?
So during all this, she does continue to exhibit her art. She goes to Philadelphia. She goes to New York City. Is still having, I don't think they're solo exhibitions, but she is still, like, exhibiting her art. Right. But as her health gets worse, her art becomes even more dark and tormented. Right. In 1944, she painted the Broken Column, which is that one where she has a column for her spine, which is another one of her most famous self-portraits. Yeah. She was really struggling with chronic pain, and in 1946, 2 years later, she actually had to have a spinal fusion surgery, and she had to wear a steel corset for 8 months.
Wow.
So, I mean, I think she had over like 30 to 40 surgeries in her life. Like, she is just, wow. I think in the documentary, I don't remember what source it was, but it was like she was so tired of being exposed and open from the surgeries. And so the Broken Column is, I think, kind of a frustration and depiction of her, just like her body. Yeah. So 1940, that same year that she had her surgery, she's actually given an honorable mention for her painting Moses. And I didn't look up the painting Moses. She did it like 10 years prior.
Oh, okay.
By the Office of the President of the Republic and the Ministry of Public Education. So it was a pretty big award. It was like a pretty big deal that she got this award. In 1950, she actually developed gangrene in her right foot. I can pick it up. It's involved. Wow.
It's very involved.
That's a lot going on.
There's a baby in...
It looks like a uterus.
Being
but
born.
In like the sky. Yeah.
It looks like Moses has a third eye. There's a full skeleton. Guys, just Google it. Oh my God.
there's a lot going on in this painting.
Yeah,
I think it's the most complicated painting I've seen of her. Because I'm not going to say her art is simple, but there's like
a focus. Oh my God, there's sperm and an egg being like, everyone has a third eye. There's Jesus. I see Jesus.
I think it was, I'm trying to remember. I think this painting is based off like a novel that she read called Moses, but I don't fully remember.
Oh my God, there's like Egyptian art. There's like the all-seeing eye. Is that Joseph Stalin?
Probably.
Oh my God. It's involved, guys. Google it and stare at it for, I don't know, a couple hours. You might see everything.
Yeah. She won an award for this
I could
artwork.
see why. Oh my gosh.
So in 1950, she developed gangrene in her right foot and was bedridden for 9 months.
Oh.
And she had to stay in the hospital and had several surgeries. Here it is. She had 30 surgeries in her life. But despite her health issues, she continued to paint and even attended... So her first and only solo exhibition in Mexico was in 1953.
Wow.
And she was bedridden at this point. She actually attended this exhibition in a hospital bed. And, like, she showed up in an ambulance, and, like, nurses were, like, kind of carrying her around everywhere. And she was, like, talking and, like
nothing was going on.
Yeah, interacting with people, but she was confined to a bed.
Right. Good on her for still going.
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
And a few months after this, part of her right leg had to be amputated because of the gangrene. So...
There's only so much you can do.
Right. And I guess she kind of got her wish where it's like, I don't want it to bother me anymore. In her diary, she wrote, quote, "Feet, what do I need you for if I have wings to fly?"
I love her.
I know.
I love her.
I know. But despite this, she became extreme. I mean, she'd been fighting, like, mental health struggles her entire life. Of course she would,
yeah.
But she became... I'm getting, like, goosebumps. She became extremely, extremely depressed. After the surgery and being bedridden. She started abusing drugs and alcohol. And just, it seems like she just kind of gave up.
Yeah.
She talked a lot about suicide. I think she was starting to idealize suicide. Between 1952 and 1954, she had to have full-time nursing staff taking care of her and all of her medical needs going on. There was, I didn't get what year it was, but she may have been hospitalized from a suicide attempt.
Okay.
It may have been like an overdose.
Wow.
And 2 months after this, she was hospitalized with bronchial pneumonia. So just a lot going on. Her last public appearance was at a protest of President Jacobo Arbenz in Guatemala. And I think I talked about him in... like when I talked about banana republics.
I think you did.
I think I did. But she was very against this. It was like part of a coup and it was weird. And so she was like protesting him becoming president. She showed up to a public protest about it. But that was her last public appearance. A week after her 47th birthday on July 13th, 1954, she died in her home. Officially, she died of pulmonary embolism. But it's strongly suspected she died by suicide, by overdose. I think the documentary even like posits like maybe Diego helped her because she was just like, I can't do this anymore. When in one of her diaries, she wrote, quote, "I await the exit with joy and I hope to never return."
I could see how it would feel, but that would be the only way out.
Yeah. I mean, she'd been in pain for most of her life, especially after that accident.
Yeah.
So she did have a state funeral at the Palace of the Arts, and she was cremated. I think her remains are in the museum.
Okay.
Diego was devastated.
Yeah.
And he actually died 3 years later from cancer.
Wow.
And he just was never the same person after she died.
No.
But after her death, her blue house became a museum in 1958. Actually, Diego donated the house to the Mexican public.
She was so beloved by everyone.
I know. I have like the most goosebumps right now. They won't go away. In the 1970s, her work was revitalized as part of the feminist movement. And
Good.
So I think, I mean, during the war and all the stuff going on, I don't think she was forgotten, but she definitely became repopularized in the 1970s.
Well, we had other things going on for a while, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in 1983, a biography was published about her by Hayden Herrera, who actually was in the PBS documentary I watched. This was like her first official biography, and people were like devouring it.
Yes.
And like this further exposed Frida Kahlo to the public consciousness and people starting to know more about her. And in 2002, Salma Hayek portrayed her in the movie Frida, which continued to elevate her being known by the public. And today her art is worth millions of dollars, of course. Throughout her life, Frida painted just basically her life experience. She was commissioned to do a couple. I was telling Emily when we were researching the other day, I didn't include it in this episode, but she was commissioned by the editor of, was it Vogue magazine? Some really big magazine at the time, to paint her friend who had died by suicide. And she thought it was just going to be a lovely portrait. But that's not the artist Frida was. She was never going to paint anything nice. And so in her painting, she depicts this woman actively committing suicide and dead. And I showed Emily this portrait.
It's graphic.
It's very graphic. And the woman who commissioned this painting was absolutely horrified because she was going to gift this painting to the victim's mother and was like, I don't even want this thing.
Yeah.
So I think I was reading about it, it changed hands a few times. Like she was gave it to someone who was a fan of Frida Kahlo's art, and then it went back to her family, and then I think it eventually got donated to a museum. So yeah, it's the, what's it called? If you look it up, if you look up Frida Kahlo's art, you'll see it. I didn't include it in this because it's pretty graphic.
It is. Yeah.
But she painted 143 paintings in her life, and 55 of those were self-portraits.
Wow.
Focusing on physical and emotional pain. And some other symbolism, some of her other self-portraits, there's some of her with monkeys, there's some of her with birds, toucans. And there's theories to what these may symbolize. I don't know. She's just painting because people wanted her self-portraits.
Right.
Because she's such a striking, visual. I mean, her facial features are so striking.
Well, and she was not scared of that unibrow.
No, she was not.
She painted that. She almost made it more prominent in her compared to the pictures of her. It really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But then when she painted it, she slapped that thing on
yeah.
there.
And she would include she had a little mustache that she would also include. She was like, this is my face. This is what you get. And people loved it. Of course. So she does have a painting I may have included. It's called Diego and I, or Diego y Yo.
Yes.
I think this was another one that she did either after their divorce or when they got back together. I'm not sure, but it depicts a lot of pain.
Oh, I zoomed it in, and man,
her hair is strangling her.
Yeah, her hair is strangling her. She's actively crying.
Yeah. So this is that was her. Well, it was after. This was her last self-portrait that she did.
Wow.
So even though things were better, it seems like there was still a lot of pain with her and Diego's relationship. And in 2021, it became the most valuable Latin American art sold at auction for $34.9 million.
Huh? I'm sorry, did you say 34.9 million?
Yeah. It was almost $30 million more expensive or valuable than Diego's highest selling art. I think his highest selling piece of art was $9 million. And I think it kept mentioning the highest valued women's piece of art by a woman was I think one of Georgia O'Keeffe's artworks for $40 million. So, but it didn't say.
She wasn't that far behind.
No, she wasn't. It didn't say if this one was the second highest by a female artist. It just said this is the most. So she's not quite highest selling female artist, but I mean, $34 million is still a lot of money.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And that is the story of Frida Kahlo.
I love her even more now.
I know.
Everything, even though she had so much pain in her life, she expressed it through her art, and just her still going to everything that she could up until the very end. I mean, going to an art show in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, the strength it would take to do that. There are some days my body doesn't hurt a fraction of what she does. And I'm like, do I really want to go out today? But like her showing up in a hospital bed is like crazy.
Yeah.
Damn. Go Frida.
What a hero Frida Kahlo is. Yeah. I was reading. I was like, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's great. Now I want to go. Do I have $34 million to sign around? I'll buy one.
To buy one of her paintings?
Yeah.
I'm sure I need to look up where I don't think all of her art is at the museum. I think it's in like notable art museums around the world for sure. I think the Louvre may have some. I'm sure I think the Met in New York City has some.
You know, I'm not going to lie. There are a lot of times that I'll look at surrealist paintings and I'm just like, the fuck is this?
Yeah.
These are so surreal, but they're so clear cut. Mm-hmm. It's like I looked at, the broken column before you even explained what it was about. And I was like, oh, she's hurt.
Yeah.
Like that's a broken body right there.
Yeah. And I mean, she's actively crying. She's got cracks all on her skin. There's nails all up and down her body.
Yeah. And then the memory heart one.
She painted that after she found out about Diego's affair with her sister.
Right. And it's like, I don't know, her heart is completely gone.
It's on the ground.
And she's just kind of standing there like a mannequin. Like she's missing her arms. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
They're like on the dresses.
Yeah, hanging there. And she's being stabbed through where her heart would be.
And then to see the changes that she made between her first self-portrait and her last, they look so different.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. A lot more pain.
And yet you can tell that they're the same. Like, they're painted by the same person.
Yeah. She definitely has a very distinct style, for sure.
Well, this was great.
Thank you.
Frida. Makes me want to go to an art museum.
I know. I want to look at more of her art.
Yeah.
I want to see all 143 of her paintings.
I think I'm going to stare at this Moses one for a while. That's like 143 paintings in one.
Right.
Oh my, there's so much, guys.
There's so much.
Please Google it.
Yeah. Moses by Frida Kahlo. It's intense.
Wow. Socials?
Let's do socials.
Okay. Well, you can find us on Facebook.
Ill-Equipped History Podcast Group and page.
Gmail.
ill-equippedhistory@gmail.com.
Instagram.
@ill-equippedhistory.
TikTok.
@ill-equippedhistory.
And Patreon.
Patreon.com/ill-equippedhistory.
I remembered them all.
You did. It was like boom, 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 boom.
Listen, the 32 years that I've been on this earth, I think my brain finally developed just now.
On the day of your birth.
On the day of my birth.
It just took 32 years exactly.
I'm a little laggy, okay? Okay. Maybe, listen, even if you love someone, if they're that toxic, you could find someone else to love, right?
Yeah.
And maybe don't manifest losing your foot because it might happen.
It might happen.
You might actually make it happen.
Yeah.
And that you might find that might suck more than having a painful foot.
Maybe. I think she did have a prosthetic, but I don't think she wore it very often.
If I had a prosthetic, I would throw it at people. I know that. And then I'd have to hop and go get it. Like every time I got mad at a kid, just throw it at them. Listen, I can't even... Nick used to move my Jeep when I was at work because he knew that my Jeep started without keys when I was in college. Mm-hmm. So he would move my Jeep across the parking lot of the mall when I was at work. Could you imagine where he would hide that leg when he got mad at me? Just be like, whatever.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Hop around and go find it? Where's my damn leg? So I got to keep this foot. I need you, babe. Hang in there.
All the toes may not touch and you may cramp up if you've been sitting too long, but
the worst part about cramping up, when you get a foot cramp, the best thing to do is wiggle your toes. My toes don't move, so I have to manually wiggle them. And I'm like, shit, no!
fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
I move my big toe a lot because I can move that one.
When we were growing up, she'd be like, I can like almost move a toe.
Do you know how happy I got? I can like scrunch them up just to, like I can use my big toe. I picked up like a washcloth after all of my surgeries with my foot and I was like, woo! It's the small things in life.
It is. And if you're someone who does suffer from chronic pain or mental health issues, a possible outlet for you is to depict how you feel through art.
Yes.
It's a good medium to do so through.
Write, sculpt. There are so many things you can do to get your feelings out, even just writing it down in a journal.
And the last thing that we will leave you with, and we'll post this in the show notes as well, if you or someone you know is having problems with your mental health and you do feel like this world may be better off without you, please reconsider. Please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 or 273-TALK, or call 988 if you're in the United States. Mm-hmm. You are loved. You are wanted. Yes. You are valuable.
Mm-hmm. We want you around. Everyone around you wants you around as well. Yes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.